Will everyone please rise as I invite firefighter Jeremy Riddle to sing the national anthem.
Detail and salute.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ready, two.
Please remain standing for the invocation by FDNY Chaplain, Father Christopher Keenan.
Detail uncovered.
Lord, our Creator, we gather here this morning with heavy hearts and with hope to demonstrate that we always remember and will never forget our Chris, who made the supreme sacrifice for our country with Tripp and their brothers of the 6th Air National Guard. We are also here this morning to always remember and to say we will never forget Chris's bride, Carmela, the joy of their life in their daughters, Mila and Eva. And with Chris's parents, John and Laura, and his brother Mark, and Carmela's parents, Tony and Terry, with Joanna, Michelle, and firefighter Anthony, and all of their partners, and all those they love. And we proclaim to them, Lord, that whatever is their need, we will, in any way we can, continue to be supportive to you, especially Mila and Eva, with your mother, Carmela. You are always in our life, in our heart, and in our prayers. And Lord, our Creator, in our path forward together, we're also always here to remember and never forget that your deepest desire, our God, is to have an intimate and a loving relationship with each one of us by name and with all of creation. And you made that desire alive, believable, and flesh when you gave us your Son and our brother Jesus, who is one of us and is with us and within us. And he also gave his life for us as a young man. And we celebrate that Chris and the risen Lord Jesus are in a full embrace, as each of us are every day, if only we would receive it. So may we let the witness of our Chris's life truly nourish our own. May we all honor our Chris's legacy by being the best of who we can be. And like our Chris, may we let our deepest desire meet the world's greatest need. Amen.
Detail, Rico.
Will everyone please be seated?
Detail, Addy.
Good morning. My name is Doug Batterberry. I'm the captain of Engine 302. And I want to thank everyone for coming to today's plaque dedication ceremony, honoring our fallen brother, Lieutenant Christopher J. Raguso, lost to us on March 15th, 2018. I would like to introduce the members of the dais. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio. Fire Commissioner Daniel Nigro. Chief of Department John Sudnick. First Deputy Commissioner Laura Kavanaugh. Please hold your applause until I finish announcing the remaining members of the dais. Chief of Staff Elizabeth Cassio. Chief of Fire Operations Thomas Richardson. Chief Fire Marshal Thomas Kane. Queensborough Commander Edward Baggett. Manhattan Borough Commander Roger Sakowicz. Brooklyn Borough Commander Wayne Cartwright. Assistant Chief of EMS Operations Fred Villani. Deputy Assistant Chief of Fire Prevention Joseph Jardin. Chief of EMS Academy Lillian Bonsignori. Division 13 Commander James D. Domenico. Assistant Commissioner Evelyn Tesserero. Captain of Ladder 155 Paul Canapis. FDNY Chaplain Father Chris Keenan. President of the Uniformed Fire Officers Association Jake Lamonda. Battalion 5-4 Commander Pete McGrath. President of the Uniformed Firefighters Association, Gerard Fitzgerald. UFA Queens Trustee, Matthew Desjardins. We would also like to give a warm welcome to Casey Fuchs, Chief Operating Officer of the Silver Shield Foundation. We'd also like to welcome two honored guests of ours today, Kathy Grems and Farah Shear. We are especially honored to have the family of Chris Raguso here. His wife, Carmela. His daughters, Mila and Eva. His parents, John and Laura Raguso. His brother, Mark. And his mother and father-in-law, Tony and Terry DeChara. as well as so many other family members and close personal friends. Welcome to all of you. I'm honored to introduce our first speaker, Mayor Bill de Blasio.
I want to thank everyone who is here to honor the memory of Chris Raguso. Everyone who's participating today does something I think is pretty sacred, which is to carry on the memory of a great man, truly take in what made him great and why we have to remember him. We're doing all this together. So I want to thank everyone who's participating. Special thank you and acknowledgement to the leadership of the FDNY, Commissioner Dan Nigro, First Deputy Commissioner Laura Kavanaugh, Chief of Department John Sudnick, and also a special thanks to the union leadership who are with us today, who represent the men and women of the FDNY. There is a simple sentence, simple phrase that sums up one of the many things that made Christopher Raguso a great man. It was before his 6th Air National Guard tour. And he turned to Carmela and he said, "Someone's got to do it. Someone's got to do it." It sounds like such a simple phrase, but it speaks volumes of the man. It did not matter how tough the mission was. It didn't matter if a lot of other people weren't willing to go on that mission. He believed it was his responsibility. That is the measure of the man we honor today, someone who realized that it was a special person who comes forward and was willing to be that special person. We're gathered here at Engine 302, Ladder 155, to honor a New Yorker who always showed up. He showed up when he was needed. He showed up when the fire bell rang. He showed up when his nation called. He showed up when his loved ones needed him. That's who he was. That's what he believed in. Our hearts, our sympathies, our condolences are with this great family. And for all of us who have had the opportunity to meet this family, it has been an extraordinary experience. We wish it wasn't under these circumstances, but we've gotten to know some absolutely amazing people. Carmela, your heart and your strength have shown through, and I want to tell you that that has been something powerful for all of us. God bless you for that. To your daughters, Eva and Mila, who carry on their father in so many ways. To his parents, John and Laura. John, brother, I love your spirit, and I love the passion with which you carry on the memory of your son. God bless you for that. To his brother, Mark, to his in-laws, Tony and Terry, and his brother-in-law, Anthony, stationed right here at Engine 302, carrying on that great tradition. Our hearts are with all of you, and our hearts are with Chris's brothers and sisters in the FDNY. We are all proud of the 13 good years that Chris gave to the FDNY. Last year, we gathered together for services, and Chris's fellow members of the FDNY Emerald Society Pipes and Drums played a song that could have been written for Chris, Amazing Grace. That one line in particular comes home to me. "'Twas grace that brought us safe thus far, and grace will lead us home." Chris devoted his life to bringing others home safely. If you look at all the things he did, he was always trying to make sure that everyone else got back okay. He joined the Air National Guard in 2001. He served in Iraq. He served in Afghanistan. He served in East Africa. A gunner and a fire expert who rescued hundreds of American and Allied soldiers in battle, hundreds. If that wasn't enough, he went on and helped hurricane victims in Texas and California. And then what he did right here at home in New York. became a firefighter in 2005, promoted to lieutenant in 2016, worked right here in this house, cited for bravery 6 times. This is as an exemplary a life as you could possibly imagine. And then, as if that wasn't enough, in his spare time, he volunteered with the Comac Fire Department. An unbelievable desire and ability to give to others. And he always felt he was called to give more. On March 15th, 2018, he died as he lived, in service, in his uniform, meeting danger, helping others. That day, we lost another great member of this department, Air Force Major and Fire Marshal Trip Zanitas. Particularly painful day, not just to lose 2 good men, but 2 leaders, 2 young men of such extraordinary promise. But we will carry on remembering their values, what they stood for. And Chris, in his life, reminds us so well how we need to live. I just want to take one moment to say to Eva and Mila, it's very hard at your young age to fully understand, but I can tell you from my own experience, over the years, you're going to understand more and more and feel more and more pride as you fully experience other people's stories of what your dad did for them, the people whose lives he saved, the people he stood up for when they needed it. By no doubt, it is 100% clear your dad was a hero. Every definition we know in the world makes it clear. And you will live your life knowing you had a hero for a father, and that will strengthen and sustain you. And I think Chris will always know that that was a gift he gave to his beautiful children. We dedicate a plaque in his honor today. The reason we dedicate the plaque is to make Chris a part of our history forever. Like so many great names we all know, here's another great name we add to the history of this city and this nation. But the plaque is not just there to tell us about the past. The plaque is there to inspire us for the future. We should all aim as high as Chris aimed in his life. We should all be as good as he was. We should all answer the call as often as he did. With that, I say on behalf of 8.6 million New Yorkers, to the Raguso family, thank you, and God bless you all. God bless the FDNY.
Next, we will hear from Fire Commissioner Daniel Nigro.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Mayor, for those kind words. A year ago, we were all reeling from the magnitude of such incredible loss for our department. In Western Iraq, a United States HH-60 Pave Hawk helicopter crashed, taking the lives of 7 airmen. Master Sergeant and FDNY Lieutenant Christopher Raguso was killed, along with 6 others bravely serving their country: Staff Sergeant Deshaun Briggs, Staff Sergeant Carl Ennis, Captain Andreas O'Keefe, Master Sergeant William R. Posh, Captain Mark Weber, and Chris's fellow FDNY member, Fire Marshal Trip Zanitas. Chris was a Special Missions Aviation Flight Engineer. He had joined the 106th Rescue Wing of the Air National Guard in 2001 and was later assigned to the 101st Rescue Squadron. 4 years after his commitment to defend our country, he joined the FDNY and was assigned to Ladder Company 113 in Brooklyn. In his military career, Chris had been to Iraq once before as a fire protection specialist, keeping his fellow members safe from fire far beyond the borders of our city. On multiple occasions, he was deployed elsewhere, including Afghanistan and the Horn of Africa. Back home, in his outstanding FDNY career, He was cited for bravery and life-saving actions on 6 separate occasions. After 11 years at Ladder 113, he took the next big step in his career and was promoted to lieutenant, working here in this firehouse. He was a true leader. And when he wasn't protecting life and property in New York City or traveling the world to serve his country and protect the men and women of the United States Armed Forces, he protected his hometown of Comac, Long Island, as a volunteer. No matter where he was, on duty or off, Chris was completely focused on helping others and rescuing them from harm. He lived an incredible life of bravery, courage, and selfless service, a life tragically cut short far too soon. A fellow firefighter and airman of his said it best: Chris Raguso was a strong man with a gentle soul. He loved his family, the FDNY, and his country. Carmela, you, Eva, and Mila, and your entire family will always be in our hearts. Chris's extraordinary legacy of service will never fade from our memory. May God bless Lieutenant Christopher Raguso and the entire Raguso family, and may God continue to bless the New York City Fire Department.
Next, we will hear from Chief of Department, John Sudnick.
Good morning, and welcome once again to Chris's family, Carmela, Mila, Eva, his parents, John and Laura, and the entire Ragusa family. Thank you all for joining us today to pay tribute to your wonderful husband, father, and son, as we dedicate this permanent memorial to his memory. I'd also like to thank the officers and members of Engine 302 and Ladder 155 for your efforts getting the firehouse ready for today. The firehouse really looks great. Captain Batterberry, Captain Kanapis, great job to all your guys. A plaque dedication is one of our most important traditions. It's a symbol of that member's tremendous courage, and it's a tribute to their sacrifice. These plaques remind us to tell the story of our fallen brothers and sisters to future generations of firefighters, so that their memory will continue to live on within our department. As you know, Chris was a firefighter for many years in a busy ladder company in Brooklyn before coming here to the Viper's Nest as a relatively new lieutenant. And even though he was only here for a short time, his work ethic, his reputation, and the content of his character preceded him. He will always be remembered around here, first and foremost, as a loving father and husband and provider and caretaker for his young family. He had a passion for helping others, so he chose a life of public service, and his work of choice was demanding, challenging, and dangerous. He was committed to his sense of duty, and he loved his country, so much so that he left his family on multiple deployments to protect and rescue other members in combat. We know that many servicemen and women owe their lives to his heroic efforts and his selfless sacrifice while on these deployments. Beyond combat tours, he deployed to Texas and the Caribbean following Hurricanes Harvey and Irma to provide relief and support to people in need. Without a doubt, there really was no situation where, given the opportunity, Chris would not step up to help others. So it should come as no surprise to anyone that he chose to become a New York City firefighter. You could even say that he was destined to be one. Over the course of his 13-year career, Chris responded to countless fires and emergencies, and no matter the call, when the alarm sounded, Chris was there leading the charge, responding quickly and expertly, and using every bit of training and talent he had to save others. He wanted to be busy, so he sought out the most active FDNY units, and because seemingly that was not enough, he volunteered for the Comac Fire Department as well. And somehow, in the middle of all that tremendous work, he still found time to study and achieve a very challenging accomplishment with his promotion to lieutenant. He was what we, not so often, refer to in the department as a rising star. because with his knowledge and abilities, he was on his way to climb the ranks all the way to the top. He wore the FDNY uniform with pride, as he did his military uniform, and he represented the very best of both organizations by setting a strong example for others to follow. As you can imagine, his call to duty was contagious. When his brother-in-law, probationary firefighter Anthony DiChiara, saw how much the FDNY meant to Chris, he decided to follow in his footsteps. I can speak for this entire department when I say that Chris continues to be an inspiration to us all. And with this plaque we dedicate today, we promise to never forget Lieutenant Chris Raguso, all he stood for, and all he sacrificed for our city and our country. I'd like to once again thank all the efforts of the members of 302 and Ladder 155, and would especially like to thank the Raguso family for joining us today to pay tribute to Chris. Thank you.
Next, we will hear from UFOA President Jake LaMonda.
Good morning and welcome. Welcome to the Raguso family, members of the department, family, and friends. It's an honor and privilege to speak on behalf of the UFOA Executive Board and all the fire officers of this city who we represent. Oftentimes in preparations for ceremonies such as this, I sit and contemplate and write down words that I want to say, something meaningful. And as I approach the podium, I take out my notes and I say to myself, I put them aside because I think my mom once told me, when you have something important to say, you just should speak from your heart. So I'm going to put my words on the side, and now I'll speak from my heart. I never had the opportunity to work with Chris. Although in the fire department, your lives cross many times. Chris and I did work in the same area in Brooklyn. Chris down on Rogers Avenue, and I was on St. John's East. And my neighbor, TJ, who lives around the corner from me, served in the Air National Guard alongside Chris. I look at the pictures of Chris that are hanging up here, and I do wish I had the opportunity to work with him, because I'm sure I could have learned something from him. I look at Chris's assignments, and some may say that maybe he would have an affinity to be assigned to a company that had either an animal or a reptile on his patch. Chris was a rat. He was a Rogers Avenue rat. Now that may sound offensive to some, but I could assure you it was a badge of honor. And then he came here to the Viper's Nest. Now the members of the department know these are some of the busiest units in the city, with a long, proud tradition, so professional, so dedicated. They may not be poster childs of the fire department, but yet they're some of the best. So when you look at Chris and you look at his DNA, okay, in his DNA, it was his ability to serve others, to put himself in harm's way, in the fire department, in the Air National Guard, in everything that he did in his life. And I can only say to Camilla, to his daughters, and to his parents, thank you for giving us your husband, your dad, and your son, because he truly has set a new bar in the fire department, a bar that we should all emulate to be like him. At this time, I'd like to present the plaque to Camilla and her family. I'd like to read it. In love and memory of Lieutenant Christopher J. Raguso, Engine Company 302. March 8, 2005, March 15, 2018. An everlasting tribute for the ultimate act of service from the Uniformed Fire Officers Association. Additionally, we'd like to present Chris's badge to Camilla.
Next, we will hear from United States Air Force Major Matthew Forbes, Director for Operations, 101st Rescue Squadron, New York.
Good morning. First off, I want to say thank you to the members of 302 and Ladder 155 for inviting us today. It means a heck of a lot to get to stand next to Chris's other work family. I'd like to pass on my deepest condolences to Carmela, Mila, Eva, and the rest of the Raguso family. It's been a tough year, but I'm glad that we get to spend this day together. Today, I get the honor to present Chris's family with several awards that he earned from the state of New York as well as the U.S. Air Force. These posthumous awards are reminders of the years of dedicated service that Chris and his family provided the state of New York as well as the United States of America. Goose was an amazing aviator, a mentor, as well as a friend. And his legacy will live on at the 101st Rescue Squadron forever. At this point, Tech Sergeant Valdez, I'd like you to assemble the awards from first, the state of New York. Carmela, what we have today is first a flag that was flown over the New York State Capitol on 20 March 2018 in Chris's honor. Additionally, we have a banner that was flown in his name during the Little Neck Douglaston Memorial Day Parade. Next, a Faithful Service Medal, as well as a Medal for Merit from New York's National Guard. And finally, most importantly, Chris was awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross as well as the Conspicuous Service Star from the state of New York. Made it with no spills this time. Nice job, man. Next, we have several awards from the United States Air Force, the first one being the Meritorious Service Medal for Chris's distinguished service as a fire protection specialist, a special missions aviator, as well as a flight engineer. This medal mentions the 20-plus casualty evacuation missions that Chris went on as he was performing duties in Afghanistan as well as Africa. Finally, from U.S. Air Force's Central Command, we have an Air Force Commendation Medal for Chris's 14 missions that he flew in Iraq and Syria, ensuring that all aviation and ground assets in that theater remain safe. Secretary Valdez, present the awards. Finally, the 101st Rescue Squadron has two shadow boxes that we'd like to present. The first is for Engine 302 and Ladder 155 to thank them for hosting this event. This box contains a flag that we flew during a combat mission in Iraq and is a symbol of our gratitude. Second shadow box is for engine 249 and ladder 113, where Chris was a fireman. Hopefully this shadow box can find a special place to remind you each day of Chris's loyal service. Thank you all very much for your time.
I'd like to say thank you to all the speakers. Good morning. Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Doug Batterberry. I'm the captain of Engine 302. I'd like to thank all of you for being here to remember and celebrate Chris Raguso. Soon after Chris's promotion to lieutenant, September 2016, his close friend and one of my guys, Ed Kelly, grabbed me and he said, "Hey, Cap, I got a guy." Now, Ed's kind of a straight shooter, no nonsense. He's one of my guys, and I took him seriously. As a captain, I'm a little greedy. I want the best. And as it turned out, I got one of the best, but a little too late. I recently went out to Calverton to visit Chris, and he rests there between two of his brothers and fellow airmen, Deshaun Briggs and Andreas O'Keefe. His gravesite is this crisp white marble, and it's beautifully decorated. There's flowers and coins and alcohol and rubber duckies. It was pretty awesome. Next to Chris also is Lieutenant Michael Murphy, which struck a chord with me. Since I was a kid, I would take books out of the library about Douglas MacArthur, play with my Army men. And then you get a little older, you start watching World War II movies about Iwo Jima and D-Day, and then the Vietnam War movies, you know, real John Wayne stuff. And now the current era, we watch Black Hawk Down, Lone Survivor, and American Sniper. All of them filled with the type of men that we'd like to be. Real American heroes. Real names like Michael Murphy, Chris Kyle, Randy Shugart, Gary Gordon. These men and their actions portrayed in movies, but the real deal, they're awe-inspiring to me. And there lies Chris, with his friends at his side. Every bit the real-life American hero we all read about and watch in the movies. Our own awe-inspiring American hero. They can make a movie about him. You could all joke around about who would play him. That'd be some fun. But he was the real deal. And to balance the weight of this larger-than-life hero that he was Chris in the real world, which was equally impressive. We would sit and talk when we would relieve each other. And if I was relieving him, it would be a spotless desk. Everything was taken care of. Everything was in order. And I couldn't believe, as I spoke to him, how much he knew. And I would never call him an Ike. He never came across as that. Just a guy that knew a lot of things. So that always struck me. And then you get to learn about him. He was a member of the Northport Pipe Band. He was a drummer. And I was told he was also learning to be a piper because being a drummer is not enough. He was a minister in a Universal Life Church, which allowed him to marry his friends. He was some sort of an electrician. Whether it was a good idea or not, he was coming to my house after he returned, whenever that was going to be, and was going to install a backup generator. And I remember thinking, you do that too? Many hobbies, avid fisherman, musician. He was a dedicated volunteer and lieutenant with the Comac Fire Department. He was a Master Sergeant in the Air National Guard, a flight engineer, special missions aviator on an HH-60 Pavehawk with the 101st Rescue Squadron of the 106th. He deployed multiple times to Iraq, Afghanistan, Djibouti. Whoever heard of Djibouti? He was there. Somalia, as well as Texas and the Caribbean, which was well documented in all the local news channels. We've all seen it. He saved hundreds of lives. With the FDNY, he was cited multiple times working in Brooklyn with Ladder 113 and Engine 249. And then his promotion to lieutenant, because he had plenty of time to study for that test, he was assigned to the 13th Division, where any company that he spent any time in felt a sense of ownership. Every captain would have loved to have him. The more I got to know Chris in life and then in death, the more impressive he became. I don't know how one man can accomplish so much in 39 years. I'm exhausted up here talking about it. And with his long, extensive list, he found time to take care of what's really important, his family. Devoted husband and father, son and brother, nephew, uncle, cousin. He comes from this great Raguso family, John and Laura and Mark. He has a beautiful wife, Carmela, as strong and resolute as anybody I've met. Thank you for helping me and all of us get to know Chris. The DeChara family, Anthony and Terry, Johanna and Michelle, and their little brother, Anthony, our probie, recently assigned to Engine 302. He does a great job, despite what must be a significant amount of pressure. We'll save all the funny stuff for later, right? And most importantly, Mila and Eva, your beautiful daughters. With so many extended families, the FDNY, the Rats, the 101st, Comac, and us here at the Viper's Nest, you will always be taken care of. So without knowing most of this stuff when he was with us personally, I wanted this guy, Ed, because of all of this stuff. I don't know if that makes sense, but it makes perfect sense to me, the type of person that he was. We all have a sense of commitment and dedication to each other in the firehouse. As a captain, and many of you will understand this, I found a sense to be extraordinary. One of my guys once referred to me as a proud papa, and that could not be further from the did I say that right? That could not be more true. I don't do this very often. I felt an extraordinary sense of loss for a man that I was only beginning to know, like I'd lost one of my own. And I'm thankful that I had the opportunity to scratch the surface. Engine 302 has been bestowed the tremendous honor of having Chris posthumously assigned to our company in our house. I promise you that we will carry the torch of this great man, this great husband, this great father that has been handed to us by the members of Ladder 113 and Engine 249 with honor and pride and love for as long as this house stands. And however long it takes, may you all find the peace that Chris would want you to find. Thank you. We will now hear from Chris's father, Mr. John Raguso. You want to go?
know it all.
That's a new one.
I'm going to start. I feel like John's a much more gifted speaker, so for him to close today would be appropriate. Good morning. I'm going to try to get through this without crying, because I promised someone I wouldn't cry. Good morning. I want to thank the Vipers for hosting us here today. I know it took you a lot of time and effort to get the firehouse ready for today, and it looks beautiful. It shows, and I really can't thank you enough. I know it took a lot of work to prepare. Thank you. Thank you, Vipers. Well, it's been a long, hard year for us all. This past year, I've been consumed with pain, hate, anger, despair, and loneliness. With this time, I try to figure out how this awful tragedy happened to my little family. Why us, and how is this fair? With all these spiraling thoughts and emotions, there somehow have been brief moments of peace and calm in it all. Very brief, but they've been there. And it's in those moments I've tried to find some meaning and lesson from this past year. So here it is. What I think I've learned this past year. I've learned that true friendship withstands time, distance, and age. Thank you, Edward Kelly, Uncle Eddie, for being Chris's best friend and ride or die. Thank you for taking care of my little family. I've learned that in one everyday, benign, and rote moment, your entire world will no longer be as you once have known it. So live life to the fullest and tell the people you love that you love them. I've learned that the pain I feel for losing my husband is nothing compared to the pain I feel as a mother looking at my babies every day and knowing that they are hurting in silence for their daddy. But daddy is always with us. We just can't see him, but he's here and he's with us. I've learned that with all this heart-wrenching pain in my everyday, I would never want to trade places with my in-laws, John and Laura Raguso, because the pain of losing a child is unfathomable. I see my beautiful and brave mother-in-law sitting right there. Thank you for loving me and my girls, and I couldn't do this without you. I'm inspired by you. You get up, and you live every day, and you put that beautiful smile on, and I don't even want to know what's underneath, but know that you inspire me. I've learned that the two sweetest and kindest little girls sitting here today, Mila and Eva, are two of the bravest little people I've ever met, and you two continue to inspire me. Thank you, baby girls. I've learned that the love of my parents and siblings is unwavering and endless. That, too, of my beautiful brother-in-law, Mark. I love you all. I've learned that my baby brother has grown into an amazing man. And what is forever etched in my mind is the day that I saw my baby brother carrying my husband's casket. Perhaps one of the most profound, most beautiful, and heart-wrenching moments of my entire life. And I'll never forget it because it is beautiful. And I thank you forever, Aunt. Especially when just the night before, you carried your big sister to bed because I couldn't stand. I was crying so much. And I had no more strength. And you put your big sister in bed. I've learned that Mila, just a couple of tears, that's it. They're happy tears. I've learned that the world is filled with generous, kind, and selfless people. And they've come out of the woodwork. All the people here on this dais has helped me. They have helped me on countless occasions. My Rat family, I love you all. My Comac family, my Viper family. And to all the strangers that I've never met that have written me notes, letters, flowers. Thank you. FDNY and the Comac Fire Department, true brotherhoods. The Air Force, brotherhoods, and I can see why Chris loved being a part. You go to work and you know these people have your back. You don't have to worry about them backstabbing you. They literally have your back. I just want to say FDNY Memorial Day, another moment etched in my mind. The saddest and sweetest moment, one of the saddest and sweetest moments of my life. And I wish Chris would have brought me. Every year he went to FDNY Memorial Day, and I didn't understand what it was. And if I would have gone, I feel like I would have had a whole new perspective. And going this past year and seeing a sea of firefighters passing my family to pay their respects to my husband was truly inspiring and life-changing, and I can see why he loved you all so much. Thank you. I've learned that I'll never be alone because the Comac Fire Department won't let that happen. There's not a day that goes by that I don't get random text messages, pop-ins, flowers, Chardonnay, Cheerios left at my front door, or just a random fire truck rig passing my house filled with volleys, honking and waving. Thanks, boys. Today is truly amazing. And after a year of the ups and downs, I'm glad that I finally get a chance to put my thoughts down and express them to you. I see every single one of your faces, and I've been seeing every single one of your faces this entire year. And here in this moment, I thank you all. Thank you for this amazing day and for honoring my brave and beautiful husband, Christopher J. Chris, thanks for picking me.
That's a tough act to follow. Before I say what I'm going to say here, and I know everyone's anticipating, what is that crazy nut job going to say today? I know it, including the mayor told me, John, I can't wait to hear what you have to say today. I'd like to read a poem. Since the mayor and I share many things in common, at least one of them is the value of a Jesuit education. Isn't that right, Mr. Mayor? That's right. All right. I'm going to do my soft side before I go to my heavy side and say, I'm going to read you a poem. It's an anonymous poem called Never Forgotten. You'll never be forgotten, that simply cannot be. As long as I am living, I'll carry you with me. Safely tucked within my heart, your light will always shine, a glowing ember never stilled throughout the end of time. No matter what the future brings or what may lie ahead, I know that you will walk with me along the path that I tread. So rest, my son, and be at peace, and let your soul fly free. One day, we'll join your glorious flight for all eternity. So it's an interesting poem. It sort of hits a lot of the major food groups as far as life and death and, everlasting life and all the stuff that we hope comes afterwards. But it's been a tough year. The worst one of my life. Even growing up in the hood, uptown in Washington Heights, never prepared me for this. All the stuff that I saw as a youth, before I was rescued from the Jesuits, or by the Jesuits, from the insanity of what is Washington Heights. All that stuff that I saw was nothing compared to this, nothing. So let me say, it's an honor to be among this collection of dignitaries here on the stage. The leadership of FDNY, the brave firefighters who stand before me, Special Forces guys with all the tattoos, the 106th Rescue Wing, Comac guys, friends and family, to honor Lieutenant Chris Raguso yet one more time. It was a year ago today, 1 year ago, this moment in time, while fighting away the tears from inside of an FDNY family services van, that we were all amazed of the shock and awe and respect of 20,000 firefighters, police, neighbors, U.S. Air Force personnel, helicopters flying overhead, all being in the same place at the same time to honor our fallen son, brother, husband, father, and friend. Now that we've completed one loop around the sun since this tragedy changed our lives forever, it's time for us to stop dwelling on the negative aspects of our loss and to try to be inspired by the positives of Chris's life of service, sacrifice, love, and friendship, what he would want us to do, and to carry on this legacy, each in our own unique way. But before I share my thoughts with you, I felt it was appropriate to hear Chris's voice one more time, to embrace his words, and to hear firsthand how much he loved making a difference in our lives. I think there's a video. Video. Roll it. That's a nice still shot, but oh, we have a technical difficulty. You've heard of high tech. This is like no tech over here. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. While they're working on that problem, I know this is a plaque dedication ceremony, and I know the Air Force was involved. And we got video? This is Plan 2. Here we go.
Christopher Raguso, Master Sergeant, Special Mission Aviator. Just trying to develop a game plan. We had just come out of, rescue of a family of 6, and trying to reattack now. And like Troy and Joe were saying, the left side definitely had higher SA than the right side. So, as we spun around, the view that we had wasn't the view that they had, especially Joe, who had the highest SA. And, personally to me, it just looked like, it didn't look like a person. I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Had Joe not been very adamant that there was somebody there, we might have left. And he didn't let us leave. And just the wind blew. We kept there talking. The gust came, and all of a sudden, what I thought was just a piece of trash, and all of a sudden, the leg was clear as day. Once we were all on the same page, we talked to the PJs, developed a game plan. There were power lines basically in like a grid pattern around this house. So we had like a 20 by 20 foot box to try and put them in, without hitting trees or wires. And I guess the water was about waist deep for them. Once we inserted them, they made their way to the window, and it ended up being a handicapped person and his caretaker, and the caretaker was having her own medical issues because she was elderly. And once they were able to get them off the side of the house and into the box that we deemed safe for hoisting, we just picked them up one by one. Got them in the helicopter. The field was obviously soaked with water, so when we landed, the wheels had sunk in, 8 to 10 inches. Yeah, so the grass is up to the flare buckets. We had to keep a little bit of power in, and The woman was just severely in a dire medical condition. She couldn't walk out. One pararescueman had taken the disabled elderly man out to the medical personnel that were waiting, and Joe and the other PJ basically carried the woman to the other one. It's an honor. You know, it's a lot of us were talking about it before. You know, you can go your whole career and never be put in a position, you know, to make a difference. And you know, we were very fortunate. I know there were thousands of people that would have given anything to go try and help. And the fact that, you know, we were the lucky few chosen to go, very fortunate, very lucky. Right place, right time. You know, there was 60 helicopters, 100 helicopters there at any given time, and just right place, right time. So very fortunate that we were lucky enough to be in a position to help people.
Let me translate that video. Essentially, what had happened, Chris was part of Rescue 1, which was the name of their helicopter down there. And according to the U.S. Air Force records that Captain O'Hagan shared with me at the base, they rescued 135 people in the short time that they were down there in Houston, Texas. And like Chris said in that video, they had just saved 6 people, dropped them off, refueled, re-attacked the mission, and now they're trying to hover in 40 to 50 knot winds over this 20 by 20 foot box that he called it, because there were power lines in every conceivable direction. And the pilots, in this case, Captain Troy, who was the pilot on this mission, held his ground. Chris lowered the hoist, dropped the PJs down, brought up the next 2 people that if Joe Napolitano, who's also an FDNY firefighter in the Bronx, he was the portside gunner in this case, he thought he saw something because he had a higher SA, which is in street talk, situational awareness. He had a real high SA and swore that he saw somebody, floating in 4 feet of water, because those people had been underwater for 3 days by the time they were getting to him, and they were all going to die. And you couldn't get there by boat, you couldn't get there by car, you could only get there by military airlift, which is what they were doing. And Joe Knapp thought he saw something, wouldn't let Captain Troy fly from there. Chris went along with it, and sure enough, when the helicopter swung to the starboard side, Chris saw somebody's leg sticking out of a piece of trash and said, "There's people down there, let's go get them." And go get them they did. And they rescued 2 people that were definitely going to die, no doubt about it. And so that's just translating what that video was telling us. I'm going to take a little bit of a break in my treatise here, and I'm going to ask for the 2 captains from Ladder 249 and, Ladder 113, Engine 249, Ian Perticue and Drew Demerick, if you guys could come up to the stage. And Captain Paul from Ladder 155 and Doug from Engine 302. Are you out there somewhere? Behind me. All right. Then there's one guy that knows the truth here, and he's standing in the back. And he's the Senior Master Sergeant. His name is Glenn Berg. He's also one of you FDNY guys, boy in blue. And what I have here is I have my own plaque dedication ceremony. And I'm going to have one for the mayor and one for the commissioner and one for the chief of the department at some point. But I did this in 3 days, and I petitioned Marianne Lodardo, Carmela's cousin, to work with me on a 24/7 basis to produce these things in 3 days. So forgive me if they're not the most beautiful things you've seen, but they're certainly functional. Glenn, you sent them on that last mission, so you know what they were wearing. But what I have here for this firehouse and for the house where Chris started, I've got the patches he wore in his last mission. And I got one for each of you guys. Let me show it to you guys first. It's the patches he wore in his body when he died for his country and for his fire department and an FDNY patch. Gentlemen, these are the patches that Chris wore on his body on his last mission. So I guess you got to, it's like, who's sharing what here? All right, so come on, you're over here. Let's get the firehouse. All right, so these are the patches that Chris wore. And this is his hat that I wear. And hopefully you guys can find a nice spot right next to the wall where that plaque is going to put this. And maybe the guys will see it and be inspired just a little bit. And now let the real circus begin. Now that the preliminaries are out of the way, let me tell you what I feel, what I really feel. All right. To say that Lieutenant Chris Raguso was an interesting character would be a classic understatement. With the burden of having to go through thousands of pictures of him over these past months, there was one common thread that tied each one together. That big, huggy bear grin he wore from ear to ear. He was happy being Goose and being the master of all those disparate personalities that lived within, that sometimes could get way out of control, like letting the genie out of the bottle. His buddy Chris Gorzinski, Lieutenant Chris Gorzinski, said it best at his eulogy a year ago, last March, when he described Mother Goose, Drama Goose, Wild Goose, Jedi Goose, and more. Chris was an entire flock of geese, all rolled into one crazy bird. No doubt about it. Chris manifested this personality conflict in a number of creative and useful ways. As a teacher, a trainer, an officer in the Colmac Fire Department, as a lieutenant that respected their traditions and legacy of FDNY with 6 commendations for bravery. As a member of the FDNY ceremonial unit, as a special missions aviator with 888 flight hours and 200 plus combat hours. That's a whole lot of time out there in the Badlands. Saving lives, serving his country both at home and abroad. A member of the Northport Pipe and Drum Band, a newbie in the Emerald Society Pipe and Drum Band. And he did it all while being a loving husband and father, a great son, a good brother, well, every once in a while a good brother, and a friend to most of you out there in the audience. Where did he get the time? He certainly lived every day to the fullest, a lesson that we should all embrace, because he knew firsthand just how precious life was in the business that you guys are in. One of the most interesting ways that Lieutenant Chris demonstrated his diverse get-it-done skill set can be seen right here in Engine 302. It seems that right after Chris became a fledgling lieutenant back in October of 2016, the Engine 302 Ladder 155 folks were having their annual Christmas party and had secured Chris's services to mind the shop while they were gone. Indeed. Chris had a few trepidations about being in charge and wanted to impress everyone with his management skills. When one of the probies crashed the engine into the side door, trying to back the apparatus into the bay, Chris was totally mortified, and the crazy wild goose flew down from the sky with unbridled fury. How could he possibly fumble his first babysitting mission? It was time to go into action, and Chris pulled out all the stops, cajoling a variety of folks to come out at 10 o'clock at night to repair the door, change the engine's windshield, fix the side mirror, and to make it look like nothing had ever happened. Isn't that right, Doug? Nothing ever happened. The guys from the firehouse had a good laugh when they got back from the party and were super impressed with the way that Chris could get things done, especially when the chips were down. Just like the families of those 135 Houston residents that he plucked out of the swamp after Hurricane Harvey on Rescue 1, as a memento to Chris's excellent work, the firefighters of Engine 302-155 scribbled a message on the new door track, and I invite you to go see it when you go out later. It says, "Please don't hurt me." One of the old-timers from Ladder 113 might have said it best when he described the first time that he had met Chris. He told me at one of the events after this happened, "Who is that dark Spanish kid who just joined the truck company? He's really got his stuff wired tight. It doesn't seem like a probie to me." Well, Mr. Mayor, you'll appreciate this. Chris was half Dominican, half Italian, and 100% all-American. He was a perfect combination. I grew up in this town on the hard streets, and Christopher was a perfect blend of everything that's good about the New York melting pot. Poster child for that, all right? One of the things that you and I discussed back on Memorial Day, if you recall, when they put us next to each other like the cobra and the mongoose, waiting for something to happen. One of the things that we agreed about was that when Chris went into battle, or when he ran into a building in Brooklyn, in a burning tenement, when the parents who left their kid upstairs said, "Go rescue my baby," they were so concerned about saving their own lives, they sent my boy up there to try to get him out. Chris never took a resume, he never did a questionnaire. His bottom line was, "You need help? I'm going to get you, no matter what side of the political fence you stand on." And that, Mr. Mayor, is what New York's all about. That's right. Putting political differences aside. You're not black, you're not white, and Chris was a little bit of both, by the way, okay? You just look at this picture, you tell me. He swore he was white. That's perfect. I said, "Chris, you're not." But, you know, he was a perfect New Yorker, okay? Born in Queens, served the city. Chris was a man on a mission and a force that would not be deterred from being the ultimate first responder. He wasn't perfect, as his brother would attest. Okay, he had a lot to learn about doing things in the FDNY tradition, but he was a quick read, and soon the student became the teacher. Lieutenant Chris was somebody you could always count on to have your back and get things done, especially when the times were at their worst. You needed somebody to train the probies about the nuances of being an FDNY firefighter. Chris was your man. You needed somebody to cover a detail on a holiday weekend. Chris was your man. You needed somebody to work an extra tour or to do overtime. As Russell knows, Chris was your man. If a buddy needed help fixing something in his house, Captain, okay, Chris was always there. I'll rewire your house, no problem. If you needed somebody to literally fly into a hurricane or rescue a wounded warrior on a dangerous mission, well, Chris was your man, because he did that on dozens and dozens and dozens of occasions. You get the picture. Everything Chris did in life, he did to the max and to the best of his abilities. He knew firsthand that life is short, and now we all know just how short that can be. Chris was a lot like the G.I. Joe Kilroy character from World War II. No matter where you were, Kilroy was there first. I'm amazed by all the FDNY folks that have reached out to me since March of 2018. They worked a tour with Chris in the Bronx, in Manhattan, certainly in Brooklyn and Queens. There was even a rumor that Chris went to Staten Island once and got lost. When Chris walked among us, he inspired many of his friends, family, and coworkers and brothers in arms to be better, the best that they could be. He had a very persuasive way of getting everyone to buy into his infectious attitude. Now that he's gone, he is still inspiring others to serve. There are many in this assembly today who wouldn't be where you are right now if it wasn't for Chris. I look at you, I could see a dozen people out there. I don't need to mention names. You know who you are. Firefighters, officers, military, friends and family, you know who you are. This may sound like paternal wishful thinking, but Chris is still here. His spirit is among us. I can guarantee you it is strong. We've seen a lot of signs of his presence in the little things. A lone goose doing a flyby, staring and honking at me 2 days ago when I came off a job site. An HH-60 flying over his brother Mark's head while he was walking at the beach in Montauk earlier this week. Little things that show you he's trying to get us to bury the sorrow and appreciate and embrace his life and to follow in his footsteps. His list of accomplishments is impressive, with hundreds of lives saved, numerous commendations for bravery, and many residents of New York City, Houston, Puerto Rico, North Carolina, the Alaska Bush people even, he was up there, Chris was there, and the U.S. military are thankful that they met this real-life comic book action hero and that he touched their lives. On the 1-year anniversary of his passing, we visited his gravesite at Calverton with a collection of U.S. Air Force, FDNY, and Comac FD personnel. And I grabbed a pair of majors from the crowd, and we read verses from Julius Caesar by Shakespeare. There's that Jesuit education again. It keeps on popping up. The soothsayer bode Caesar to beware the Ides of March, but Caesar still went into the Roman Senate, knowing that the outcome might not be favorable for his longevity. As another Roman warrior, Chris also knew firsthand about the treacherous nature of the Ides of March. That is the day that he died. But if I were to tell him, like the soothsayer, Chris, beware of the next mission, he would simply tell me, Dad, there are people who need my help, and I'm doing what God wants me to do, what I was trained to do, what I love to do, what he died doing, serving his country and his community at the highest level. Like the great philosopher of our time, Dan Aykroyd, said, as Elwood K. Blues in the Blues Brothers movie, we're on a mission from God. And he was. This plaque that you're going to reveal at some point, if I stop talking soon, okay, it means a lot to our family. It's an expression of love, appreciation, and respect for the ultimate warrior and firefighter. It is also a stark reminder that we all miss Chris and that the old axiom is true: only the good die young. But time is the enemy of every hero. Someday, a probie will walk into the hallowed halls of Engine 302 and Ladder 155 for the first time, look at this plaque of Lieutenant Chris on the wall and say, so who is that guy, and why is he so special? At some point, everyone who knew Chris firsthand will be gone, and no one is going to know the answer to that question of why he was so special. Hopefully that moment is far, far away. Until then, I challenge all of you, I challenge you to help keep Chris's memory of heroic deeds and sacrifice alive. Let us continue to share stories about this very special warrior, firefighter, leader, husband, father, and friend. He will continue to do great deeds, and you will be inspired to do them yourself with each story that you tell. If you want more of Chris, look no further than his beautiful wife, Carmela, and their two precious little girls, Mila and Eva. Look at his brother, Mark. Look at his mom. Look at me. Let his selfless deeds continue to inspire us to achieve our own potential and make the world a better place, as he showed us with his actions. I will always hold a special place in my heart and my soul for this unique young man, and hopefully you will too. May God bless Chris, our family, and FDNY.
I'd like to thank Carmela for those beautiful words. And I'd like to thank Mr. Raguso for those great words, all of them. I'm going to make one dispute, though, on your story. Commissioner Nigro, it was not a probie. We will now commence with the dedication of the plaque.
Chris, you gotta wait till they bring the family up.
We would please unveil the plaque. Mila and Eva, this plaque for your daddy reads, dedicated to the memory of Lieutenant Christopher J. Raguso, Engine Company 302, who made the supreme sacrifice while serving his country in Operation Inherent Resolve as a Master Sergeant with the 101st Rescue Squadron in Al-Assad, Iraq, March 15th, 2018. And we remember this plaque is already blessed by the gift of Christopher's life and his supreme sacrifice. And we celebrate for all of the firefighters who are here and will forever be here, that as you respond to every call and that you go forth from this house, you will pass Chris's plaque with a reminder that he's not only always with you, but he is within you. And may you all come safely home to this house, to this neighborhood, and to all of us who are so deeply grateful that with Chris, you in your commissioning also made the promise, I offer my life to protect the life and property of the people of New York City. Amen.
Detail, Rico. Everyone please rise. Detail, hand salute. Ready, two.
Okay, back to your seats.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Mayor of the City of New York, the Fire Commissioner, the Chief of Department, and other members of the dais, we want to thank you for attending today's very special ceremony. And as is the Fire Department way, the turnout on behalf of a man tells you everything you need to know about him. And the support for Chris's family says it all. The crowd here speaks volumes. Thank you all. We will never forget Chris Raguso. This concludes the plaque dedication ceremony. Thank you again, and have a nice day.